Hello. I think that actually worked. I managed to schedule it and get it to start too. So, hi Josh. Let's see if I can adjust this. That's weird. The chat does an interesting thing on my studio window where it kind of hides the bottom chat. Anyhow, so it worked and I'm here and Sanford is lurking. Let me know if audio is an issue. As you can see, I've got the microphone on, and I don't know if it'll pick up Sanford too, but we had some news, which was part of... This is a two-part announcement, but I'm going to make one announcement before the other announcement. So the family announcement is that we are under contract for a house. We found a house this last week, and we have put in an offer, and they have accepted the offer. And yeah, I know the window is bad. It'll get dark here in a few minutes, and then the window won't be a bad thing. But now I'm going to rabbit trail all over like I usually do because, well, fared on a pixie stick. So we have a house. Well, okay. We have accomplished the first hurdle towards getting a house. It's funny because I had written a blog post and I had this kind of in mind, and when I wrote the post, what I've been doing to fool with the Facebook algorithms is I'll make like a little post that doesn't have a link in it, because if I put my blog link in it, Facebook throttles it and literally no one sees it. If I put just a blog link up, I'll get like maybe 3 reactions to the post. It is very, very rare that Facebook will let anything more than that happen. So I had written a blog post about various and sundry, and at the time we were in limbo when it came to, I'm going to move this.
You don't need to move that. I don't need to be on screen. I'm just...
Okay. He says he doesn't want to be on screen. He's messing with my hair with the flower. Can you do me a favor and shut that light off? So, the blog post, and let's see here. If I do that, then you can see both of us. The blog post commented that the number one thing that we were going to be doing is, as we went through the house buying process, was to be making sure that we got an inspection done on the house. So on Facebook, I had just posted the little teaser of what's the number one thing to do when buying a house, and by and large, the vast majority of people commented that what has to be done when you're buying a home is to get a home inspection. Well, that is the next hurdle in this house, but it's complicated. Let me explain. The house that we're buying is, you're getting quite a lot of hellos, by the way. The house that we're buying is an estate sale. So it's being sold by the heirs, and they either have not got the inclination or the resources to do any repair. We had initially planned to do a VA loan. We've done one in the past, and we were planning on doing it again with this, but we realized that it was going to be difficult for us to get a house in our price range and make it go VA. So we inquired with the bank. Actually, this is part of what we did with the first house, where we were trying to jump through hoops for the seller. And one of the things that we learned through that process before we walked away from crazy seller was that we could go conventional. So we chose to do that with this house. which means that the seller doesn't have to make any repairs. And since they can't and won't, we are going to be taking this house on as is, which is okay, but we have the option to have an inspection done, which will be done. It's scheduled for Monday. And at that point, we will be able to take a look at it and go, okay, we can deal with this or we can't deal with it. We do know that the roof on this house is only 5 years old, so that's a good thing. And it was not a layered. They tore off the roof and they put on a fresh roof, which is ideal. So that's good. But what we don't know is the condition of the foundation, and that's something the inspector will be looking hard at. And we don't know the condition of the electrical system, and that's another thing that is going to be a good hard look. We think tentatively, we know there's a couple of issues. We're aware that in one of the bathrooms the floor is spongy, which means it's going to have to be ripped out. Which is the exact same thing we had to do with the Ohio house. It's a very common issue because the wax seals around toilets. Oh, here's a thing. So if you have children and the bathroom is primarily the children's bathroom, teach them that if the floor starts to feel weird, they should let the parents know. Oh, anyhow. In Ohio, it was well progressed before we really learned what was going on with it. And in this house, it seems to be spongy. I haven't yet had a chance to fully assess the issue. So right now we know that there's one big issue, which is that the floor in the bathroom is going to have to get taken out and replaced. And we've already done that. We have the experience. So we will be having an inspection, and based on the list that the inspector comes back with, we do have the option to back out. So the other big question with this is it's Texas, and foundation problems in this area are very common, because of the way the soil is. It's very clay, and it'll get wet, and then it gets very dry, and so there's a lot of motion underneath a house. So having the foundation assessed is top priority. We also paid extra to have a termite inspection done because that's another very common issue in this area. I reflexively said yes to the termites and then asked later, and was told that yes, it's a good thing. So there is no basement in this house. It is it's basically a square house, and then it has an attached two-car garage, and in the backyard is a big shop. So we are going to have tons of space. So, okay, RK, in this case, that is not going to happen because the market is white hot. We did something with this house that we have sworn that we would never do. We put in this offer without having a chance to actually set foot in the house. We have a very good friend who is very local to the area, and she was willing to meet our realtor who we'd already worked with once and knew. It was kind of great because we met two realtors and kind of assessed them, and the one that we're working with really understood us and got what we were looking for and was willing to work with us, and she did some things that were just really kind of nice to see in a business person. For instance, I wanted to look at a house that was for sale by owner, and she made it clear to me that I wanted to do that on my own and not have her along, that she was fine with that I didn't have to have her come with me on the for sale by owner. And I'm like, no, I need your expertise. And of course, that one went under contract, which is kind of my point. this market is so hot. Our friend and the realtor looked at the 2 houses on Wednesday, and we made the offer on the second one, but the first one we knew was going to be a bidding war. There was going to be multiple offers on it. It was a really nice shape. It would definitely have gone VA loan, but it didn't really have any soul or character, and I really wanted a house that had a good kitchen, first of all. Sanford can have whatever he wants. He now has a shop, and the shop is big, and it actually has a pull through to the alley access, but there's a room to one side of it with like shelves and storage area and workspace. So he will be able to have his man cave, and I will have a big eat-in kitchen that has 2 pantries. I have 2 pantries. No gun range. This is actually in a little town, tiny town, Texas, which is very exciting for us. We were willing to live in small city Texas, but tiny town Texas is much better. Finding a place around here with land is uncommon and expensive. So yes, so there's a pantry that's in the utility room, and it's 10 feet of built-in, very deep, like 2 feet deep cabinets, and 10 feet tall, and then there is a smaller cabinet in the kitchen over in the dining end of the kitchen that can actually open all the way up and serve as a buffet. And the people that built this house did some really thoughtful things, and I'm sure we'll find some stupid things as we work with it, because every house has those. But what really sold me on this is, as my friend is going through it, and she was sending me little videos and photos, because I'm sitting at work and I'm like glued to my phone. My boss knew what was going on. She was fine with it. But the one thing that she sent me a picture of, she opened up the under the sink, kitchen sink area, because I always look there. There's so many problems with kitchen sink problems. So many problems. But she opened that up, and then she figured out there's a light under there. They installed a light underneath the kitchen sink, so you can find whatever is hiding in that cabinet, especially because that particular cabinet, the sink is at the corner of the room, so it's got 2 windows, Mom. I know you love that. So 2 windows, and then the sink, and then the cabinet under it is big triangular thing, so having a light in there is great. But then the other thing that they did was, in the smaller pantry in the dining end of the kitchen, in that pantry there is a wired in light, and there's electrical outlets, so things can be plugged in there, which I just thought was, this house was built in 1950, and it was owned continuously by the same family up until we're buying it. So this house looks like it has had some updates. Most recently, it looks like the kitchen was probably done in the 1980s based on the way the cabinets look. And as far as the 1980s, a good chunk of this house is in that cheap, awful wood paneling. So that's coming out, and there will be drywall going in. So the drywall comments earlier, yes, there will be drywall going into this house. But yeah, no, it's quirky. The layout of this house, yes, Joshua, there is shag carpeting, and it is indeed green, although, well, it's not avocado anymore. It might have been at one point. But in one of the bedrooms, there is shag carpeting. That is also coming out. There are no bead curtains, and although my husband has suggested that there would be bead curtains, no, there will not be bead curtains. So you come into the house and there's a formal living area and there's a formal dining area. And then you flow into the kitchen. And from the kitchen, there is a den, which will become my office, because this is a 2-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. And my realtor initially wasn't even going to tell us about it, because we had said we wanted 3 bedrooms, because we wanted to have bed for the kid, bedroom for us, and a guest room / office. So the criteria for having an office is filled in this house by having a den. What the den flows into the master bedroom, so it can't be a guest bedroom, because we can't close it off so that they would have privacy, unfortunately. But in a couple of years, when the kid moves out, at that point we'll be able to have guests. And in the meantime, it's a lovely house, and the den will be easy to set up for office area. And here's where the bead curtains came in. Sanford was talking about using bead curtains to close off around desk area so that I could have some peace and quiet there. I am going to use folding room dividers instead. Jim Curtis, old NFO, uses one very effectively for his little office in his house, and I like that. His is beautiful. Mine is going to be a cheap one from like Amazon or something. But the fun thing is that this house, it's not just the inside stuff. There's a little tiny backyard. It's not much backyard there, because there's the big shop, and right next to the big shop there is what would have been probably RV parking. And it's a really tall carport with a paved slab under it, concrete slab under it, and that is going to become the grill and chill spot. I am going to have a smoker and a grill and an outside kitchen, and I'm excited. The idea there is that it's got electric out there, so we will be able to put fans. I have been gloating over the idea of RK, we could probably do that. I have been gloating over the idea of one of those fun outdoor chandeliers with like wrought iron or something, but that's a project down the road. Joshua, there were gull wing doors in the first house that we looked at. I don't know if they make them wide enough for the entrance to the den, but that is actually not a bad idea. I will have to look into that. Because I'm going to be working from home, so the office needs to be set up in a side. Yes, the shop has power, and since the carport area is off the shop, that'll have power as well, so we can set up to have fans, and we're going to have a really nice outdoor living space. The other thing about this house is that there was a hot tub. There is still a hot tub, but the hot tub that's there is not functional, and we have no idea how old, what kind of condition it is. What it makes sense, though, is that we would be able to yoink out that hot tub and put in a new one that actually functions, which would make my dear husband quite happy. It's a small hot tub. It's not like the big multi-person. I think it's like a 2-person hot tub. Julian, to the best of my knowledge, there's no AC or heat in the shop, which will limit things. Yes, we understand that. There might be, but I hadn't seen any in the photos. We will be looking at this house tomorrow for the first time. We do not have... we haven't had the time to get up there, and we asked for permission, and when we went under contract, to be able to do a walkthrough, because everybody knows we haven't seen it yet. So we got permission. We've got an hour tomorrow to get to go check out the house. At that point, I will be taking a ton of measurements, and I will think I will be able to start with some planning and some budgeting before we close. Oh, and closing date, April 11th. It was funny because we were told that there were multiple offers, or at least one other offer. And so we bumped up our offer a little bit, not much, just enough to be like, we're serious. But what they asked for as a concession from us in accepting our offer was if we could move up our closing date 4 days. Yes. It's an empty house. Yes, I do have a laser measure, and that is exactly what I'm making sure that we take with us. It is a single story, Ben. That was one of our big criteria because Sanford's knees, and for that matter, the dog's back, are no longer really up to stairs. So, Jim and Ian's humidity will be pretty much the same as our humidity. So, no, swamp cooler will not work. And I had debated about sharing photos of the house on this live stream, but I'm not sure that's a wise idea. I have them queued up, so if I decide to do, we can do so. I have just a couple of photos of the outside of the house. I'm not going to deluge y'all with a slideshow. But yeah, it's actually got some nice curb appeal. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Okay. We still have to get over the inspection hurdle. I'm excited, and we know that, yeah, that's a good idea too. A little bit more private than this, because this is very, very public. So hence why I started to do it and then was like, maybe not. No solar panels to the best of my knowledge. Actually, the disclosure said no solar panels, so no solar panels. We do not need a riding lawnmower. We have a push mower. It got moved with us, and this house will not need more than a not need more than a push mower. So it's fairly modest sized lot, which. Yeah, no, I definitely am not publishing the address. That was why I was like, I'm not even sure I want to do pictures. It's a fairly small yard. I can garden, but I can't get excessive with the garden, which is, my husband is quite relieved about that. I have a tendency to get carried away with gardening. So... There's a little bit of backyard, which is good because the dog needs to go potty. And the front yard is actually really nice. And it looks to me like she's done some nice landscaping. So, right, Joshua. That's why I was like, maybe not. Yes, RK, the utility room is very good sized. We own a chest freezer. It's in storage, so that will be going in first thing. Soil is going to be very clay, and I will probably have to do raised bed gardening. That's very common in the area. I've actually already joined a local gardening group. And I don't know if we're going to wind up with 3 refrigerators, but we will definitely have 2 refrigerators. The house has a range in it. It's actually one of those installed cooktops, and it looks like it's original to the house, but it looks like it's very sturdy from what I've been told. So that'll stay for a while. Yes, fairly close to Itchy Paw. And, oh, Mom. Where was I? Oh, yes, we'll have to buy a refrigerator. And since the budget will probably not stretch to a nice refrigerator, the first thing I'll do is I'll buy a cheap used fridge, and we'll budget for a nice fridge, and then the cheapie will get moved out to the garage fridge as a beverage fridge. Although I may wind up putting a fridge out in the chill and grill outside living room, because that's where people will be hanging out, and it's a dry enough environment that I can actually have a refrigerator outside, under good enough cover that it's not going to get rain blown on it. So who knows? Or it might get put in the shop. We have options. We have space. I'm beyond excited about this. It's going to be so good to get out of the apartment. And Dawn, that's a good idea. I may wait for Black Friday. I am not picky. I have lived under conditions that would make most modern Americans blench and run. If we have running water, Mom, why did your power go off? It was just about what I was going to say. As long as I have running water and electricity, I am happy. I don't like when there's no power, and a generator is also going to be an investment down the road. This house does not have a wood-burning fireplace, which was one of the things that I did want, but it has a gas fireplace, and that's original to the house, which also means that I can install a gas range. The current range is not gas. Yes, and I need fairly decent internet for what I'll be doing for work. But the plan is to eventually replace the existing electric range with a gas range, which I can do because there is gas to this house. Our current dryer, which we actually own here at the apartment, the washer and dryer, I bought a nice Amana set used when we got in here, and they'll be coming with me. So we'll be fine. I mean, yeah, I hate electric ranges. The one we have here in the apartment is the worst thing in the world because it's not level and the burners are off. They're off kilter and they don't go down. So even if the stove were level, they wouldn't be level. And cooking on that is, so, yeah. I'm really looking forward to having a level stove. And then later on down the road, we'll go for the gas. But yeah, it's gonna be a long process to renovate it. It's not deplorable now. My plan is, starting off the bat, that any of the carpet that's okay, that's newish, can stay. And it looks like the front two rooms, the formal dining and living, are okay for carpet. The back bedroom where Johan will be is not okay, and that one is going to be coming out and being done sooner rather than later. The paneling that needs to come out and be turned into drywall is probably going to be, before that happens, the cheap and easy solution is a big old bucket of Kills. And get me a 5-gallon bucket of Kills and kills all the things. I don't know yet if this house has popcorn ceilings or not, so that's going to be a thing. It's going to be a process, and tomorrow I'm sure I will come away from the house with a long list of projects that need to be done. We are also in our 3-day get-out-of-thing option. For any reason, we paid a little fee in order to have a walk away from it for any reason option for 3 days. Which we will be within tomorrow. So if tomorrow I walk in and there's a fatal flaw somewhere that we absolutely can't live with, we can walk away. And it won't cost us much at all. But I don't foresee that. The friend that went and looked through it knows what she's doing. I trust her, and more than that, she knows us. And she was funny because she's texted me. She's like, "I'm in your house right now," and she was walking through it, and I was just like, "Yay!" Oh God, I'm looking at the comments, and Chili should never have Velveeta. Just no. Why? Why would there be Velveeta in Chili? Oh no. RK, yes. Okay, if you ever wanted to have me come visit you, you just put out the perfect bait. I will take a Genair gas range. Thank you, ma'am. I will drive my truck down. We might wait until gas is a little less expensive, but I will come and get it. I enjoy the process of scrounging. So, even if this house is missing things at first, I will make them happen. It should be fun to make them happen. And I don't mind taking on a little bit of a project. My son is looking forward to it, and it's not that my son can't, it's that my son is a teenager. And, yeah. No, we will have, this will be a learning project for him. I've already had this conversation about turning this into part of his homeschooling. And it'll be nice to have the shop to push him out into and be like, get away from the computer for a while, kid. Go. Oh, good, Mom. I'm glad to hear that your power's back on. Oh, so, yes, still hurdles, but the... ouch. No, ouch. Still hurdles, still have the inspection to get past, but it really looks like we are going to be in a house. And the thing is that we're in the lease here at the apartment until June 21st. So we have a couple of months where we can be living here and working on the house, which will be much better than trying to live up there and fix it at the same time. It's I've done that, trying to live in a house and fix it at the same time, and funny how things just don't actually happen when that is the case. But it'll be nice to be able to send Sanford and Johan up there and be like, okay, guys, go fix things. We have a lead on a really good handyman, and that will be very useful. Ben, how far away is it? It's currently about 120 miles from where we are living. It's a solid 2-hour drive, and usually a little longer than 2 hours, factoring in stops for gas and bio breaks. Julie and I frequently add just a little bit of baker's cocoa to my chili. Not a lot, but it is, you're not going to taste the chocolate in the chili, but you want that in there to really deepen the flavor, and it boosts some of the chili. And by that I mean the flavor, not the spice level, the capsaicin. And so when I was taught how to make chili, you added just a little bit of chocolate to it. Oh, adobo is wonderful, and adobo goes right into chili nicely because it's smoked chilies. So it's no, so I'm sorry, I'm thinking chipotle. Yes, adobo is a nice boost to the flavor as well. Okay, I have made you chili with chocolate in it, and you didn't know the chocolate was there, so. Yes, exactly. It is very much like mole, and that's the flavor profile that I think the original person that taught me how to make chili was probably playing with. When I was taught how to make chili, I was 12, and I had no idea, and Now I know a lot more, so I can look back and go, oh, okay, I see what was going on with those flavors, which is an interesting. Ian, we can share recipes. No cinnamon. I don't do cinnamon. I do not do cinnamon in my chili. Chocolate, yes, but it only in a very small amount, and it boosts the chili flavor. You're not tasting the chocolate. Cinnamon takes over if you put it in. I've tried it a couple of times, but no. And I do not like Cincinnati chili at all. Not even a little bit. Well, okay, so I have chili that I do with a recipe, and then there's Sanford's chili, which isn't actually chili, but that's okay. The kids will eat it, and that's all that matters. Oh, that's a thing I have to come up with. So, my life is a little complicated starting now. I have Fantasy coming up at towards the end of March. I will be in North Carolina for Fantasy. I fly out on the 24th. I fly home on the 27th. I start the new job on the 28th. Before Fantasy, this coming weekend, actually, not this weekend, the next weekend. Jeez Louise. It's going to be an interesting couple of months. So, March 18th through the 21st, my daughters are coming up to visit. And which includes on the 19th, I will be cooking for the writing group, the North Texas Troublemakers. And that is always, I usually try to go over and above when I'm doing that meal, but because my daughters will be here and because we're going up there a little bit early so that they can go through their stuff that's still in my storage, because I'd like to get rid of it, I'm going to have to come up with a dish that will travel well, and I'm kind of leaning towards shepherd's pie. My girls are not big fans of tomatoes. They both have sensitivities to tomatoes. So I was initially thinking I was going to do a lasagna, but now I'm thinking that I'm not going to do a lasagna, so I'm kind of leaning towards a shepherd's pie. Make up a big, 10-pound shepherd's pie in a disposable aluminum baking dish, and then just finish bake that at old NFO's house for the group. I just saw the chat, and garlic ice cream should not be a thing. Why is garlic ice cream a thing? What? No. I'm not sure I'd try that. Chili ice cream actually might work. Okay, new rule in the live stream. I should never read the chat. You people, I don't know. We're talking about eating snake and orangutan and making tofu chili, and I'm sorry. My brain hurts a little now. So, chili gets done quite often for the writers group, Ben, which is why I wasn't thinking I was going to do chili. Rose ice cream actually sounds delightful, although rose tends to be a flavor that takes over. I do know you. I do. And this is part of... I'm not sure that I break like Ian breaks. Although it's always amusing to break Ian, so I totally get that sport of let's break Ian. It's the best thing about all of you is the fact that you're my friends. Oh, so there were 2 announcements, so I might as well go to the second announcement, which those of you that read my blog actually already know about. And speaking of breaking Ian, we have been teasing Jim and Ian on the old NFO live stream about a hunting anthology for at least a year now. I might be longer than that. I could be wrong. And Jim does not enjoy running anthologies, and I understand why. I do not blame him. However, with the last anthology being so successful, and the fact that it was not actually that much difficult to do once I was settled, I looked at my upcoming schedule and I said, I'm doing it. And then yesterday in Jim and Ian's live stream, which you can go over to Old NFO's channel and watch, Ian kind of laid down the gauntlet and I picked it up. So I will be running a hunting anthology. And this is what I was thinking, is when I was a little girl, I would very often sit quietly and listen to the adults tell stories. You got to hear the best stories when you were a quiet little mouse in the corner with your nose in a book. And I wasn't always reading, sometimes I was listening. And I've been told many stories by my family. So what I'm looking for in this hunting anthology is I want stories about hunting. I want stories, not necessarily always humorous stories. I think that having some stories in there that are more about the thrills and chills of hunting, because there are times when things hunt men, as my husband just commented. What I do want for this is either for it to be mostly true, because I'm aware that most hunting stories are embroidered, sometimes a lot. But on the other hand, I won't turn down a purely fictional story as long as it reads like a true story. So I want hunting stories, fishing stories, trapping stories, stories about the consequence if you randomly fired your shotgun into the cow pasture at the deer and peppered the cows. Somebody who was telling me that they're going to send me that story. No, honey, I think Men Hunting Women is a whole different anthology. What I saw as far as one of the legitimate objections is that hunting stories tend to be short. They are normally a performative rather than they are. So they're normally a spoken method, and that doesn't necessarily transfer to the written page. Some people can do it very well. Law Dog stories are just as good in paper as they are in person. Oh, okay. They're not as good as they are in person. They're superb in person. The man is a superlative storyteller and raconteur. However, it can be done in... Oh, Dawn, please do that. You can tell a hunting story and have it come out wonderfully. So that's what I'm looking for. And I'm not worried about the length of them. What I decided I was going to do in order to flesh this book out is I'm going to do illustrations. So I will illustrate each story. I'm not going to have a story in it myself. I don't have any good hunting stories. Most of my hunting was when I was relatively young. Okay, I've got fishing stories. But most of my hunting was done when I was relatively young. But part of the reason that I wanted to do this anthology and to make this happen was because I come from a family of hunters and fishers and trappers, and I am going to reach out to a very large family group and try and persuade some of them to send me stories. I'm already getting one from my grandmother, which is wonderful, and my grandmother is going to try and talk my mother into talking about the porcupine story. And I have got some cousins and my great aunt. Oh my gosh, I would absolutely love to have a story from my great aunt in this. And my grandmother is willing to have some of my great grandfather's stories come into this. So I think we will have the material so we can make this into an interesting volume.
Talk to your dad about the bear and the bees. That would be qualify as hunting.
And possibly my dad writing a bear story. So what I'm looking for are stories, and there can be more than one story. It's because hunting stories are short. This is going to hark back to some of the magazine stories that I remember fondly growing up. And one of the things I remember about those is that they were never glossy pictures on the inside. They had clever little black and white line illustrations. And that's what I am going to create. My plan is to do at least one illustration per story. And it's not going to be a coloring book. It'll flow into the text. I have the software to set that up and do that relatively easily. And I think that this will be a project, but I think it's a worthwhile project. I think that as a culture, we tend to forget where our food comes from. And I think that it's important to come back to that. And yes, Joshua, Pat McManus, I read a lot of his stuff growing up. Baxter Black, I'm not familiar with. I'll have to go look him up. But yeah, I want this to be a fun read. I want it to have the human experience of going out and bringing home your food the hard way. Because my kids didn't grow up with hunting. I did. We were subsistence hunters. We hunted because we needed the food. And if I am able to hunt again in the future, it will be because I have every intention of dragging home food for the freezer. And that's what I'd like to highlight and capture in this. I want it to be funny. But not every story that goes into it needs to be funny. So my idea with this and with any of the anthologies is that I want to bring something positive with them. In this case, the joyfulness that tends to go with hunting stories. And that could be the joy of I made it out of there alive. Because I've had a couple of people ask about stories that aren't necessarily funny in the slapstick sense. So they don't need to be funny. And they can be any length. There's instructions on my blog at Cedar Writes for what I want for submissions and where to submit it. The submission period will be open until June 30th. Tentative plan for publication of this will be early September. Likely September, goodness knows. So the other thing is, and I was intending to do a full-on formal announcement of this later, but I'll go ahead and do it now. There will be a second PTSD anthology, and it will focus more on secondary trauma, so the cumulative trauma of abuse survivors or of law enforcement, emergency medicine, people that work with traumatized people year in and year out themselves have trauma, and the suicide rate for police, for EMS, for trauma victims is all much higher than the general population. And we've done the PTSD story that focused on military engendered combat trauma. What I want for the second one is stories that focus more on hope and recovery from, or even just living with, the ongoing secondary trauma. And Ian has pointed out that September 1st is opening day of dove season here in Texas. So there we go. We have a deadline for release of the hunting anthology. The PTSD Anthology will likely be open for submissions starting a little later this year, but ending in late September with a projected publication in November of this year. Again, not Christmas themed, but available around the Christmas season, because the holiday season is brutal for people that are dealing with PTSD from separation from their family through mental health issues. So I'd like to, again, target the PTSD Anthology for the Christmas holiday season. Tentatively, and this is very tentatively because I don't know yet what I'm going to do with it, Joelle Presby, who is a lovely person and a Baen author, and you really should check her out. She's got a solo novel coming out, but she's co-authored some books with David Weber that are just simply a lot of fun. Sometimes Baen co-authors are a little shaky. Joelle is solid, writes a really fun story. And so she had the funniest little story that she had with one of her small children, and then I had liked that. It was funny. It was good. Very creepy, very Lovecraftian. So later in the comments, she's like, "Hey, Cedar, want to do a children's anthology with Lovecraft-themed stories?" And I was like, yes, I do. But I do not want to do more than 2 anthologies in a year, so that one's looking at early 2023. And again, that one will be an illustrated, and that'll be children's stories, and that one should be fun. Okay, PTSD Stories. Ian's no obligations. If you can, you can. You wrote a brilliant story for the last one. I already have a story submission for the second anthology from Kelly Grayson. And I've had multiple people ask me if I'm doing a second one. So yes, I'm doing a second one. Yes, Becky, it will be all over the map, just like the first one. Other than the only themes are dealing with PTSD, recovering from PTSD, and the story must have hope. If the story does not end on a hopeful note, if it's bleak, then that's one of the few things that got stories rejected from the last one, because without hope, I'm not putting it in there. This anthology is intended to give people tools for recovery, and hope is that tool, in my experience. And I mean, I'm an anecdote of one, I'm not data. Hope is absolutely the most necessary thing. Without that, you can't keep going. Lovecraft cutie stories you can do. And Ian, we need to talk about children's stories, because I need to explain to you what I was thinking. Think Kipling. Think Stocky and Company. Think Kim or Jungle Stories. That's what I was talking about when I was talking about doing, continuing the series beyond into fiction. Steve Diamond? I don't know. Anyhow. So yeah, no, that those 2 things, that's the big things. We have a house under contract. Inspection is Monday, so by this time next Friday I will have news or confirmation of this news. I don't know yet. And I am going to be running 2 anthologies this year. One of them is now open for submissions, and that is a hunting anthology, if you are just getting into this. Well, maybe not as long as Kim, because you don't have much time. It's going to be an interesting year, folks. It's really going to be an interesting year. And I'm not a political person, but I do keep track of current events, and we are headed for a rough time. And one of the things that I know about hard times is that people need entertainment. And here's the thing about being an independent. I can set my own pricing. Anthologies are different. There's a bunch of other people involved, and I want to make sure that they get paid because I run anthologies on royalty shares, and I take care of all of the upfront costs, and essentially I eat that. I mean, I'm not getting paid enough on an anthology to make it worth my time technically, but they're a labor of love, and I will keep doing that as long as I can afford to. As far as my stuff, I will put it out there so that it's reasonably priced but also profitable enough to make it worth my while, because artists will die if they try to live on just exposure. So exposure is what kills you, and I have been hypothermic, so I can attest. So entertainment that is accessible. This is why I'm going to continue to keep my stuff in Kindle Unlimited, because for a set fee a month, about what you'd charge for, or about what you would pay for a streaming service like Netflix, you can get Kindle Unlimited and you can read. Now, I'm not saying Kindle Unlimited doesn't have stinkers. Sturgeon's Law applies. But there is a lot of good stuff in there, and if you have access to the internet, then Stephen, write it, and you know what, I can always send it back to you and with edits and make you fix it, and you might learn something. Hyperthermia is as bad as hypothermia. It's been a good week. Sanford reads about as many as that, Doug, probably 20 to 30 books a month. And I know a lot of people that are on fixed incomes rely on Kindle Unlimited for entertainment. So I am happy to feed that particular thing. I don't read as much as I used to. I wish I had more time, but I don't. And and that's the other thing. The job situation got complex. I will be working part-time for my former employer, mostly weekends, to help them transition, because I thought they were going out of business, and they have managed to pull out of that dive, which I'm very pleased with, by the way. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not going to walk away from the remote full-time get to work from home job, but I will help them transition until we move. And my boss is very grateful for that. I'm actually grateful because it means I don't have to give up my lab. But they are going to be moving facilities into a smaller facility, so that's going to be a chore and a half. I do also get to design a lab because they won't have a replacement before that needs to be done. So I get to design a pocket handkerchief lab because the new facility is cheap and tiny. So that'll be fun. Trying to figure out how to cram a lab into something the size of the average person's bedroom is going to be interesting. I will probably have room for a home lab. The utility room in the house boasts a very nice sink. So, I'm happy that the company isn't going under. I'm also happy that I get the opportunity to escape from the city. That's the problem with my job, is that it locks me into needing to work near big industrial facilities, which are generally located in cities. So I am very happy for the opportunity to walk away from that, even if I will miss the R&D lab. And yes, I probably will wind up with a little home lab, brewing up lotions and potions for friends and family. very unlikely to be wanting to sell that. Becky, give my love to Mike. I will see you guys on Sunday. We're going to go see butterflies. And the rest of you all, you guys have a wonderful week, and I will be back again next week. And thank you for coming to listen to me natter on at you for an hour. But I'm excited and happy, and yes, tiny town, here we come. I'll see you all next week. Bye now.